stay. But then Saturn also represents everything agricultural, and it's very and the IC is next to Jupiter that rules it and rules the midheaven, 17 degrees Sag. So I'm going to try something on with you. The Lord of Fortune is on my natal Jupiter in Capricorn, and I want to try something fun with you. Okay, Moon is in Leo, Sun is applying to Ketu, Mercury will be soon applying to Ketu, and Venus in Scorpio. Well, this is a little bit of channeling. I'm going to set intention for the eclipse and kind of like the eclipse shade. And I'm going to use Essential Oils book. So I'm just going to flip the book and see what comes up, just as a fun experiment, and see what kind of messages we get from the plants or the essential oils, which I think is a great, when we have, we're going to have Venus in Scorpio, which will be ruling over the moon and the sun, over the eclipse, and over Mars, and many other things. So Scorpio is great for essential oils. It's the essence of something that is highly concentrated and highly transformative. And getting a call, okay, there's a lot of things that are coming up with that. And, a little bit about essential oil, because the essential oil is basically the concentration of the plant in its highest form, its essence. And it's potent, so much so that it creates transformations within the psyche, both when you smell it, when you put it on the skin, or those who consume. And I know it's going to alarm people, but I've talked about that. Do your homework. There are a couple of methods to do that. I don't have to tell the story every time I touch that. So without further ado, the first pages that open up for me are two things. One is camphor and one is chamomile. And we're talking about Kamazulan, which is, this one is actually the Roman chamomile. It is not the blue chamomile. So, or is it? No, this is the Kamazulan. Yes, let me see if this is, no, the Roman. So, first of all, with the camphor. So camphor, what's active in that is basically the thymol, the menthol, the terpenol, the cineol, and it's high on the nervous system. It takes 50 years to grow. You cannot touch the camphor, the trees, okay? You cannot touch them. It takes 50 years to grow. So we know, if you are an astrologer, what takes 50 years to surround the zodiac? Chiron. And it's produced in Japan and China, okay? Formosa, I don't know where it's at, but Japan and China. And it's nervous system related, very good for our breathing. And this is naturally given Chiron curation. Could be even for the Chiron Geminis, for those of you. It's anti-inflammatory. And now we have Chiron in Aries, which is inflammation. It is good for the circulation of the blood, which is, again, Mars issues. Assists, okay, you're going to have to bear with me. I'm reading from a book. This is not like me being your doctor. assists for people who have risk of heart attack, because it is strong enough for the heart, to energize the heart. Okay, again, heart is soul, and of course, solar eclipse. Good for gout, inflammation in the entire body. And you know that inflammation is also a trauma reaction. Okay, people who have PTSD, CPTSD, oftentimes they have what they call fibromyalgia, which is basically a sort of inflammation that arises as a result of, the trauma, unresolved emotions and stuff like that. Respect to the sovereignty, okay, it breeds rage, and then that can cause inflammation, especially if they're not acknowledged or validated. Um, it's good against a viral infection to the lungs. Good to purify the rooms. It's warming, okay? It's a warming oil. So any place you have a cold or low blood pressure, okay, very likely you're going to have to be cautious with high blood pressure, because it basically warms and makes your blood, okay, kind of, it raises your blood pressure. If you've had intense disease or surgery, then that, or exhaustion, that can be assisting. So this is very interesting. Very interesting. If we take into consideration the lungs and the nervous system, we think of Jupiter Gemini immediately, and an essential oil, because Mercury is going to be on a very Uranian degree in Scorpio, for which essential oils are fit. Okay, also tincture could help if you want to take it from the Pisces. For some, even Bach flowers, like, because Pisces can be tender in that way. And I wasn't expecting camphor. The chironic thing, it could be very personal, okay? It could be because Chiron is in Aries right now. It could be for those of you of, like me, of Chiron Gemini, particularly the Chiron Rahu, okay? The Chiron Rahu in Gemini, we have Chiron and Rahu in the same sign. Some of us even in the same phase, like me, and this is particularly challenging because that's the time where when you're growing into your Rahu and you have a wound there. So Jupiter is dealing with the lungs, and so it's good to curate basically anything to do with challenges in communication and breathing that are to do with war trauma, whether it's a personal war or it's outside. So camphor is coming up strongly. You want to be cautious. It can be a little bit of neurotoxin if you use it in excess. But other than that, this is something you can call on, whether you call it an energy or you actually use camphor. Very good to invigorate, okay, your nervous system. It's not the one you would use before bed to calm down, okay? This is one you use to clear your lungs. And I've had experience where a certain being that accompanied me felt like they needed a hug, and then I tried to hug them. I got very, very mad, and they felt like something was in the lungs. Now, lungs have to do with grief and loss. And I want to challenge the notion that if you lost somebody, it's like, it's a year or two, and then you're expected to come to life. And also challenge the notion of how grief occurs. It's sometimes very not linear. And every person has their own process with it. Naturally, people who have experienced a lot of grief in their lives, and grief can also be of the self, okay, if you've been through a certain trauma, the certain fracture, or if you're of the people who sense collective trauma, there can be secondary loss, and even so much as when I was English teacher, I had a student that was a big fan of K-pop, and one of the singers committed suicide, and they were going through that. Okay, they really needed to talk through this. So it's just something that we're not aware of. There are all types of grief, and you want to be gracious with yourself for whichever type of grief you're dealing with. So there can be grief, there can be loss. Again, it's the solar eclipse on Ketu. It doesn't necessarily mean that that you're going to lose someone now, but you might be dealing with grief, dealing with loss. Something comes up. Ketu relations. You want to watch my Ketu Relatis video? It's in English. That's going to bring a lot of kind of not just reality check, but a graceful reality check. And with Ketu relations, just as before I was recording, I was thinking about that video again, and how when something touches our Ketu in relationships, there can be, first of all, something very non-material around the relationship. It might not even be in relationship in real life, but the tremendous care, genuine care on a soul level is something that's beyond something you can explain. Okay, you can really see that person on a soul level as if both of you were have crossed over. Okay, if you think about the way people who crossed over, people, medium people who crossed over with you, and that's why I guess it's Saturn hour mediumship, and in the way people that past view people as kind of like a beam of light or soul essence, and it might not be connected to the actual reality of what you see in the person, what they had to do in this life, or the role they had to play in this life, or the fractured role they had to play in this life. But it's a soul level connection. It's very, very powerful, very, very strong, very, very graceful, and very, very tender. So first of all, you want to understand that there is the soul level connection, and this is calling for a type of love that is of the type of love that people that cross to the great beyond have. I've been receiving a lot Mark Bayersky, but Mark Bayersky has been working with his deceased mother. She died of cancer, and she went through a lot of hurdles from his dad. He had his dad, his story, like his dad was, not in a level of consciousness or awareness that allowed, to grow with love in a way that could be understood by the mother and by the children. And they both went through a lot. And then when his mother crossed over from cancer, he began to work with her, began to medium, and he's doing a lot of great work and crystal healing and so on. And I've kind of been getting, that type of vibe. Okay, it's that type of love. Okay, so a lot of you are going to have such relations, and camphor can assist you for the part of you that is grieving something. And it could be many things, from grieving that you cannot be together in this life, from grieving, and it is grief, okay? From believing the channeling that you receive, because what you're receiving, the mediumship that you're receiving, is right to your soul at this moment. I was watching someone who's channeling a Nick Drake, and she was just looking at the moon. She said, "It's pink moon, and I'm channeling Nick Drake." And that's it. That was the short video. And that might not be meaningful to maybe deceased relatives or other people who received other channelings. And this is okay, because it's communication, and every relation is very personal. And there are various reasonings also on soul level, energy level, that you might not, be aware of why is it so, why is it happening, and that is the type of loving that is beyond the carnal, beyond the physical, beyond the will we be in relationship, not in relationship. And with Ketu, you don't need explanation for that as much as, let's say, with Rahu, because it's not like you're wondering, are we twin flames? You don't even need to ask questions. Like, you just know there's a certain type of affinity there, that whichever way it translates, you have genuine grace around these relations. So we're gonna have those relations, and they might be connected to grief. Um, uh, and, and also it's important that sometimes people, especially with Ketu relatives, you can summon around certain grief. Okay, somebody lost someone, another person comes into their lives, or you connect around the grief, or because it is Ketu relatives, you could be processing grief together. It's not that you're processing the emotions for another, it's more like you can sense the grief, okay? Your souls are going through something together. We might not understand why, and that can be very peculiar from a 3D level, okay? um, but this is very much, okay, solar eclipse with Ketu on a Venus sign and with Scorpio, all this psychological depth, very, very intense things, uh, to encourage circulation, to encourage cell rejuvenation, to purify the lungs. And it's something that's to do with the Chiron wound. So there's a tremendous amount of processing, yes, healing and transformation. Mind you, when it's chironic, you're processing grief. So this is the first thing that came up. It's very, very powerful. I already, just from looking at it, like so many eurekas that could come into my life. Um, and I hope that that is going to be meeting you as well, and be useful for you. And it's also important, like I said in my Keto Relatis video, when you are meeting new people, and some of that already began to form in the shade of the eclipses. It's a very little eclipse, okay? It requires full balance of the feminine, masculine, and the grieving associated with not having that balance in your life, as well. Some of the losses may have occurred because of not having this balance in your life. Just today, the coming days, I had this, deep realization of how Palestinian people, Palestinian tribes, a lot of them used to treat the people who were considered the crazy. They used to tie them, they used to lock them. And unfortunately, on the grand level, okay, not a personal level, on a societal level, it manifested kind of like an open air prison for 75 fucking years. And it is through the global issue of WHO that, under the guise of pandemics, there is a diversion tactic towards war that has also to do with medical experiments and MK Ultra, which is global. That unfortunately Zionist is at least involved in. Okay, certain streams of Zionism are at least involved in. That they cut dividends to the church should also be noted. But you just think of how, from the tribe that just treated people who were deemed crazy, not by housing first open dialogue, believing them, embracing them, and learning from them, but actually from confiscating them, from taking their rights, from chaining them, and it basically very, very terrible relations. And this is teaching for all of us, especially the people who think like, oh, we are the West, we have like hospitals, we have this. No, it's not anywhere near what it should be. And this is also the truth for Israel, why it had 7 October. And this is the teaching of the 12th house, okay? In astrology, the 12th house is hospital, is jails, is the exile as well. And how these people are treated, and the human dignity that's given or not given will be perpetuated if, God forbid, the place will have invasion or war. So you think about that kind of level of insights that is coming up, processing tremendous amounts of grief, repent. When the damage done, okay, the children that were killed are not to be blamed for anything like that. Um, and this is also when you think about, the expandable children projects. I just looked the other day on the chart of Beyonce Knowles or Beyonce Carter, and saw in 8th house, Chiron, 22nd degree, it's giving expandable child. So, and I connect that with the testimony of people like Annika Lucas, and I understand that there's something going on here that is very deep, and the purgatory is very deep. Okay, and Beyonce is also having Libra stellium. She's a Virgo, but she's having Sun, but she's having Libra stellium. So that is very interesting. So this is for the camphor, and the next up is chamomile, and this is yes, ooh, yeah, purring cat situation. Purring cat situation. Hello there. Yeah. Yeah, she wants to say hello. And she wants me. Look at that diversion tactic, okay? Absolutely. Purring cat situations. Cats just know when it has been overwhelming on the lungs. Absolutely correct. And they want their attention, and they tend to divert you from what's not. Okay, cats are such great spiritual protectors, as all pets are. You just notice how she uses this diversion tactics, very mercurial. Yeah, absolutely right. So let's talk about the chamomile. Okay, so this is coming, it's the two chamomiles. One is the Roman chamomile, which has 1% azolan, and the German has a chamazolan. Okay, so both chamomiles are very tender also for babies. Yeah, first aid, it's calming, and it's helpful to process grief in the sense of anger, the anger that comes in. Very good for the mouth and mouth health. Okay, so whether it's the gums, so that is very useful, and very useful, of course, for immune system, all. But it's supportive of white blood cells, and it is anti-inflammatory. So again, look at the anti-inflammatories that come in, supportive of the mouth health, okay, expression, mouth. Of course, the mouth is related to all of our body organs, but also to our ancestry. Yeah. And it's good also for children that are even infants. Okay, for when I studied aromatherapy, we had the chamomile, rose, and lavender oil that is a baby oil that you can put right together with sisters. You can put it right when the infant is born if you dilute it well. Okay, it's a 0.5%. If you dilute it well, then you can even use it on an infant. So it is so tender, very, very calming, very anti-inflammatory. The German chamomile is blue, which is giving us the frequency of truth and communication, forgiveness even. And the Roman is a lot sweeter. Both of them are very good for rage. I must say, you want to have trial and error, okay? Because when I would use, let's say, German chamomile, I had a friend that called it the blue death, because whenever they absolutely had to sleep and they were stressed, they would use it under the pillow, and they would just, however stinky it is alone, they would just sleep. But for me, I find that I could be enraged using that because it's just like a purgatory. So you have to have trial and error when you work with the chamomiles, um, especially the blue one. Okay, mind you, there's some truth that had to come in. If the truth is so congested that like MK Ultra, then of course it's a purgatory. Okay, of course I would get even more enraged because it wants to release truth, and I had to whistle blow. Um, but this is another oil that is supportive of the nervous system to process rage, to and it's not to calm us down, it's about communication. Okay, rage is not subdued by like valerian or something like that. No, it's not about making you numb. It is about processing that by expressing yourself and expressing your boundaries. And we are purging a lot of people pleasing with Libra. Okay, so there are going to be a lot of boundary settings here, and people standing their ground. Okay, basically, and there's a lot of truth that's coming out because people know too much. But also a form of leadership that's coming by standing your ground and speaking up for your rights. Okay. The chamomile is good for skin issues. Again, the eye and the environment, which is a very Libra issue. The self versus the environment, the self versus the partner, and that is directly to the skin. So, and of course, anything that you have to do with the stomach, and even eye inflammation related to the eye and eye disease, sore throat. Okay, anything that has to do with having good boundaries, expressing yourself, and so on and so forth. So those are the accompanying oils that arrive for this eclipse. And let's open another page there. I'm called for. Oh, yeah. Here we have a ASMR of purring cat. Yeah. Let's just open another page. Okay, and this one is coriander. I was thinking about this oil today. So pinene, geraniol, coriandrol, and this is from the Far East, but also England and Spain. And it smells like coriander, okay, but the oil is from the seeds, and it works on digestion. It's a very Martian oil, by the way. Egyptians used it on graves as well. Look how the grief, the processing, those that passed away, Egyptian, it helps with retrieving your appetite. So even people who deal with being anorectic. Very good for neurological pain and rheumatic pains. Okay, it makes you want to go to the bathroom. Anti-inflammatory, particularly for lung inflammation, to do with the lungs. Again, the anger that comes with grieving someone you lost. Now, for some of us, I know that I've been tending to, political assassinations and so on, that they're also personal. Okay, there's a lot of war is also political assassination, and a lot of targeted individuals in war. Okay, so the anger, the rage that comes with the grief of losing someone to basically war or murder, whether it was medical. Okay, if the person was assassinated by a viral thing and you can't prove that, Okay, all of these things um, that can affect us very badly, and the testimonials of even living people who survived and cannot speak yet, and so on. And those can affect the lungs, okay? Because lung has to do with grief, and inflammation can has to do with anger, and it's also good for influenza. Okay, so again, we have an oil that is very strong scent, has to do with the seed, which is very Jupiterian, and neurology. Okay, look at that neurology, rheumatic pains, um, excess stress on the nervous system. You know, when you're processing such grief, that there is this helplessness of that thing happened because of, and you can't say it. Okay, so this is particularly useful now on a global level. There are a lot of people, if you think about the atomic veterans, the veterans of 73, the veterans, the war veterans that are being silenced. Okay, they tell them, yeah, you can go to therapy and so on, but instead of therapy, they're receiving kind of like a silent treatment, threats to their lives, pills that congest their psyche, like antipsychotics, but also other weird shit, you know. Then yeah, getting that's the thing. And so those oils, those herbs, um, you can call on them, or you can make something with these oils, or you can smell these oils, or cook with this. Okay, you drink a chamomile tea or cook with the coriander seeds. Okay, a burn camphor, where that can assist, because there's something tremendous, like an A bomb inside the human being, okay, that needs to go off. Um, and for some people, they are going to have to talk anyways. I've been one of these people. And even when you do talk, it creates, you know, the other A bombs need to go off, and that can create intensity within the psyche. Um, and so there can be even a situation where a person can feel like they don't find the words to speak. Okay, all of those are going to assist you with communication, even in whichever form. Okay, in whichever form. um, so I was thinking about coriander today, actually, and I was wondering about this because I'm processing something, you know. Um, so that is, you see how the line of neurology, nervous system, expression, processing rage, grief, loss, um, the lungs, is, and Chiron. Chiron, you know, a lot of things coming up from processing also of the atomic bomb. And you know, when you put people in a situation where you silence them, where you hurt them, and they can't speak, you're creating an A bomb in a very literal sense. If you compare with what happens to expandable children, a satanic ritual abuse, and all types of such rituals that are not even satanic, or that are local tribes, and so on. And the way, and what's done, okay, people being cannibalized, people going through torture, and so on and so forth, children seeing that, children having to participate in that and perpetuate that, and not really knowing what to do with the psyche, how to explain it to the adult self, those who survive. And you think about in the A bombs, okay, most people were not dying, evaporating immediately. They were going through tremendous descriptions, um, It's not just the atomic veterans. It's not like, oh, you drop a bomb. No, you don't. Okay, and you can listen to the atomic veterans, and you think about the hidden versus the physical manifestations, very literally an A bomb. And so something about this eclipse is going to remind us that we don't want to perpetuate such thing. I'm not going to say it's going to drop a bomb or anything like that. Actually, not at all even. But we have a good chance of understanding the deep transformations psychologically about relations, Venusian and Mercurial, and the connections of those to the nervous system, to our health. Okay, all of these things that we need to retrieve and to honor the Venusian, honor the yin, honor the yang, whether it's the veterans that speak, and so on. So that's going to be powerfully transformative, and we have all the Ketu relatives to assist us with love that might be difficult to explain, especially when you think, oh, but in this life this person did so and so and so and so and so. It is love coming from the great beyond. It's love coming from the ethereal. It's love that is really truly essential, unconditional. We need that to process these things, and the juxtapositions that are created. It is simply so. It's not for nothing that Rahu here is going to be with Neptune, very, very powerful, beyond just the physical manifestation, so people can take it to the form of illusion, but also there is tremendous craving for that spiritual elation, learning about near-death experiences without taking away from suffering that cannot be explained by religion or spirituality, okay? And the juxtaposition of those. And then okay, this is an oil I actually don't know. It's called Kunzia ambigua. Ambigua is interesting. So it is from small tree, a bush, and it managed to kill Areus staphylococcus 98%. Never to use on the skin, and to be aware when you smell it, even because it can arouse the breathing. So this one would be used for muscles, inflammations in the muscles, influenza, skin, fungal skin, and nails, assisting in migraines for a couple of hours. So only 1 to 2 drops in the burner, or 4 or 5 drops alone in the bath, which you dilute it, of course, with salt and oil. Not to be, this one is not to be consumed for those who consume orally. So this is very, very intense. Okay, very, very intense. I just mentioned the A bomb. Okay, and this would very likely, and if you think about fungal stuff, especially fungal in the nails, in the feet, those are unprocessed traumas. Okay, deep traumas, maybe even intergenerational, because nail again is Saturn. And again, the skin. Okay, so look how powerful transformations are coming up, and we get, even when we go to the essential oils, we get the really potent stuff, from the very tender, like chamomile, to something that is extremely extremely scorpionic. It's like you can't smell it too much. You don't put it right on the skin. Very, very potent, very, very powerful. Can kill 98% of this aureus staphylococcus, okay? And tremendous antiviral. So, of course, this is telling me that the side of the loss we are processing, there is something quite viral, okay, going on in the world right now. So medical warfare might be the case. And those are things that can assist. And especially when we talk about medical warfare, the element is not just, okay, the spread of virus, the rage of help guys, your medical warfare guys that help. The type of things that, Indians have been talking about occurring in the world. Um, and and the helplessness, okay, the trauma around its rage, that this is the medicine that's supposedly being provided. I made a video today about MK Ultra survivor who had undergone medical experiments and has to heal from cancer, and he was in Stanford University, okay, Ivy League MK Ultra. So this is why I didn't write my thesis, okay? This is why I made thesis proposal and I took break from academia. My body simply couldn't, okay? It's not that they told me to go out or something, not at all. But my body simply couldn't. And I'm seeing why. Okay, the dots are connecting deeper and deeper. And when you touch these subjects, that things happen. It evokes many things, many emotions in many people, because there are people who are hurt by, some shaman or some healer that was putting them through something they're not supposed to go, it's not sensitive to them. It can be very traumatic. And on the other hand, there are people who went to, medicine as people know it in the West, and have undergone tremendous neglect and so on and so forth. So of course it brings out a lot of baggage is kind of a bad word, is used as a bad word. It's not used as bad, okay? The baggage that people have around the topic of medicine. Okay, we can have varied experiences. Yeah, when I was 9 years old, I think I kicked the door closed, and then the glass was not made well and it broke on me, and I didn't know what to do as a child. And so they took me to hospitals and they had to, kind of stitch it together. And so, like, this was quite gruesome, actually. And as a child, it was like, how is it ever going to be fixed? I felt very guilty because I kicked the door. So it wasn't out of nerves. It's just like, I had to make sure that the door is closed, and I was holding something in my hand. And I wasn't even aware that I was not to blame, because the glass was not supposed to break anyway. But that was kind of like the feeling. And then, there's medicine. I was like, oh my God, it's like, that's fixed now. They can stitch it together. I didn't know that. Okay, so it was a little bit of Frankenstein, but it works. But then there was the part where they made, like the shot, and I screamed my lungs out, and I came out. And it was like, you were such a hero. You didn't even say anything. Okay, so we can have varied experiences. Whereas where I was targeted individuals, I didn't understand, like, why I still. Okay, so this side effect is not good for me. Let's try this. It cannot be from the pills. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? But you cannot say that. You have to be polite. And you don't even know you're a targeted individual at that situation, okay? If they gave you housing first and open dialogue, you would begin to understand what you're channeling. that would be a threat to many operations that are being done in the world. And so, yeah, like who thinks about it, right? You just live your life. Um, so, yes, sweetheart. Yeah. Um, so think about how the various experiences that we have with various types of medical field. Okay, I went to a personal reflexologist that thought if you have hallux valgus, okay, which is kind of situation with the toe, then it's because of your character, which like no, this very likely symbol of people who had even CPTSD because the sense of helplessness came from perpetual trauma that you couldn't process or express even to yourself. Um, and so how even the medicine that is holistic can neglect people and cause trauma rather than relief. Okay, and I talk a lot about Venusian versus Jupiterian models of healing. Jupiterian is about access to choice, or about showing you here you can choose this, you can choose that, which can be okay. But Venus is also about listening, it's about validating, and that allows access to choice. It is also about resources, okay? So mindset and faith and allowing choice and tending to things is an excellent part of healing. uh, and then there is the Venusian model, so it's either a situation where the Jupiterian model works for you better or the Venusian works for you better, or usually it's a combination of both, and that is something you would need in any system of healing, whether holistic or not. um, so, and not knowing that can create such misunderstandings that I don't even want to begin, okay? So, that is, and this is how people can come to think that the holistic medicine would blame people in their ailments, which is the opposite of healing naturally. Whereas when it comes to the medicine that you have like uh, in academia, then you would usually see you would not see the when the research stopped because they had actually found cure for cancer, but you would see that chemotherapy is torture, and then you give an antipsychotic to subdue the convulsions where your body tries to get the toxin out of the body. Okay, a lot of things about cure for cancer are coming up with this. I don't know why, cancer and radiation and so on, but here particularly, there's a little bit of a karma to the medical field around all of these that's coming out and the banking system, and people invested in that and thinking they're invested in cure for cancer, the many donations, like a really bunch of purgatory stuff coming up. um, and the oils are pointing to that as well. And at the same time we have these keto relations that are summoning up and bring us a little bit of almost miraculous love or miraculous caring. And you must understand this is on soul level, okay? So this is something that you would feel telepathically or you feel energetically. And as usual with these things, we have to honor this dimension and not make conclusions from the energy to the physical immediately, because we don't know what person is doing in current life. Um, and many things, okay, that are Neptune related as well. Neptune can be given as illusions, but Neptune is also the necessary dissociation or necessary anesthesia, or dream state or creative state. And we are going to be eager for escapism on this eclipse. Those oils can assist us in processing the underlying grief, helplessness, and so on, and communicating, okay? Not being harlots to people, not being people pleasing. There's something going to be purgatory here we're going to state our case and stand our ground. And it's going to be a quite unusual way, because some of us are going to do it through songs, through music, through movies, through methods of expression that are Neptunian, okay, rather than direct, okay. So, and some of that is even necessary. Um, and this is a creative expression that is coming up. And mind you, with the whole AI scandal or fiasco, there are going to be quite controversial ways of self-expression there, because AI is going to be directly involved and very targeted. Um, Think about it. The person needs to write something off their chest. They cannot write it directly, so they write a story or a satire or a song, okay, or something like that, or make a perfume. I don't know. And then there is the AI. There is the danger of that, like, creation to be stolen from them and so on. So they might do something a bit extreme, a bit eccentric. Neptune is already sextiling Uranus in Taurus, and we don't know how that may come about. Okay, they might get AI to collapse into itself, use technology to create certain type of movies. Like, I really don't know. Okay, or if we use technology, it is going to be something incredibly insidious, but not necessarily in a bad way. If, and again, when you think about Neptune is also the traveling, the long distance travel, travel by a ship, um, the technician, air technician, okay, aeronautics, okay. So it's going to be quite risky for like journeys and travels and vacations, as every eclipse is, but this one is in particular. Um, and it's also going to be a time where people want to escape, so they want to vacate. And you think about when they have to do, let's say, have to do a digital passport or digital ID, and then you have people that after the war they cannot be in a closed place, okay, or that people that have amputated limbs, and all of these, and it's those people that really want to escape and want to go on a vacay. There's going to be a lot of satire. There's going to be a lot of people taking their stress off on the system, okay? Um, but doing it so creatively, doing so with storytelling, doing so with songs, doing so with, okay, we might hear like hacking into systems and beginning to play songs, um, like on a radio or something, like really weird stuff. It's going to be very entertaining, but you have to understand that underneath this tremendous grief and tremendous rage being processed, okay? Kind of like my cat, stepping on the phone whenever she wants attention, but the phone being, oh, if I think about, the kind of like last meme I posted, which was the person pressing the two nuclear bombs red buttons. It's like, why not both? Um, and to Mandarin oil that is balancing between creativity and expression, but also relational chakras and expression. It's a warming oil, good for people who fight with their parents. It's a just do it oil to take you into action. Very good to connect with inner child. Okay, we're gonna have a lot of these. Okay, it's Mandarin oil that came out for Essence of Desire. So we're going to be dealing with some pranksters. Okay, we're going to be dealing with some pranksters, and they might be kind of like, so fucking exhausted that they've had enough of having enough, that their actions are quite provocative. Okay, yes, Baba. Um, and so This is, it's a time where people, by this time, people should have been liberated from a lot of, kind of hurdles and energy blocks and many things that, many misconceptions, particularly misconception. Anything Venusian and eclipse has to do with misconceptions on the feminine, but also on the masculine, okay? Because Rahu is in Mars sign, and Mars is in Cancer. Um, this is where a lot of Eurekas are going to summon up, and a lot of people are going to say, well, that on something that could take a person 3 decades to understand. So it's going to be particularly provoking for those who had no idea where it's coming from. Okay? And if you're still the person that has no idea where is it coming from, it's going to be a particularly tough eclipse for you, um, because what stirred up is so fucking deep. Okay, think about. I've just observed about how things like MK Ultra is so blatant. Something that was once top secret. You have Ultra for a clothing line, for shoe line, for cosmetics, for even certain chocolates. Okay, for physics, for like everything is MK Ultra today, MK Ultra energy, and so on and so forth. And so if the people within it are still of the kind of people who think that you're like, oh, who's gonna know? They're not gonna know. Um, you know, expect to encounter people who's like, hey, of course that's what's up. And it's time to, okay, this is going to be time where a lot of people could be connecting the dots, especially around the electrocution. Okay, 11th degree, both Mercury and Venus on 11th degree Scorpio, this is degree of electrocution. And the expandable children project. Okay, electrocution was used to create various identities. Okay, and associations between them. And these people are parents of people, children of people, spouses of people, family of people, um, and the entire celebrity system, whichever type of celebrity, even politician, including scientists are celebrities. Like, it's everyone. Okay, it's everyone. So there's definitely going to be just a lot. Okay, people releasing that, people talking about the testimonials coming, from Stanford, about cancer research and MK Ultra. Okay, medical experiments, the kind of stuff that people knew that are going on or didn't know that are going on, and it's just going to be out there, and you won't be able to gaslight people about that. You won't be able to say, well, it's not from the pill, it's not from the shot, they're imagining, they're this, they're that. People are not going to, okay? And it's not like a little one. Okay, Chiron is already on degree 21, so it's not like people are going to get murdered, but it's just that they won't be receiving those explanations anymore. Okay, the politically correct, the explanations that are, pleasing to the ear, even the attempts to gaslight, none of that's going to work. But also, the insights are going to be deep. Okay, the discussion around these worldly topics is going to be deep. Thinking about, kind of like the eureka I had about the way Palestinian tribes treated the crazy people and what happened to them, and the way Israeli treated women and what happened in 7th October, which was the female watchers that were threatened the most and murdered. Okay, so people are not going to be able to hold it. They're not going to be shutting up. They're sick of it. They're sick of being sick of it. And they're just like talking like, I don't care. Okay, everybody's going to be Gen Zer about that. Nobody's going to give a flying F. Um, and that's something you want to be prepared. Okay, Ketu Libra means we are purging diplomacy. I said that. Um, and Pluto is still in Capricorn, so there is somewhat of a sense of doing things from the inner of the structure, using the power of the structure to knock down what's not good in the structure. Um, and that's very much being said even by the oils. Just that the oils aim at something way more emotional, alchemical, transformational, that's gonna assist us to express these things, um, and retrieve our passion to life. Okay, it's not for nothing that I'm working on essence of desire around this time, and we're not going to be okay. It's going to be controversial. Okay, again, if you bring the Ketu Relatis together with what the grief you need to process, together with the expression you need to do, it's going to be very fascinating. Okay, there's going to be a lot of Corvinouts. I'll just say it right there. If you don't know what's a Corvinaut, you can turn off this in Dutch. Do something in English. Because, okay, I talk a lot about the Corvinaut. The Corvinaut was basically a story for a journalist that was crime journalist, Bernard de Vries, put a person in jail for a very long time. That person was his age, and they were in their Saturn return. This is my insight. Triggering their Saturn Pluto hard aspect, but they had amiable Moon Uranus aspects, and that person, okay, Corvinaut, was kidnapping Mr. Heineken, okay, and hence hold my Heineken. I actually got a Corona beer for free today. I don't know. Anyway, so that person begins to kind of, you know, be fond of Peter de Vries, and the rest of the story. I hope it will come out in. I know there was a movie, but I know Peter was not so fond of the movie, and I know his son Royce is doing something. Spoke about it on RTL with like the like do something in English, Royce. That's what I gotta say about this. There are gonna be a lot of Corvinouts because um, what this eclipse entails is the purgatory of, hey, we're not gonna take this and that and that and that and that corruption anymore. But we don't necessarily hate the people, okay? And this is a very, very, very powerful, okay? We're purging something to do, especially with Lilith stuff. And there's just this awareness, and you can get along with someone on a certain level, but then for that someone, maybe they were in the cult, or maybe, I don't know, doing crime, or maybe crime to do with juristic system, political system, or even the MK Ultra kind of like performers, and you hold them accountable. It's not necessarily that you don't have amiability together, or you're the one held accountable, but it's not without grace. So the gift of grace here is exists. There's got to be a lot of humor. Jupiter Gemini is very humorous. I just want to say something. After I recorded my morning episode, but I talk about housing first and so on, I go out and I go through the academic school because it's to shorten my way. And there is a person, just one person in the street, and he's screaming, "I will slaughter you! I will slaughter you! I will slaughter you!" And I was thinking to just continue on straight, but I was like, he's probably right. He's not talking to me, okay? So he's probably right. But I just ran into the security of the academy. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go from here. And I told him the story. It's just such a funny juxtaposition where I talk about housing first, even psychosis and schizophrenia. And then there's this person screaming in the street, "I'll slaughter you, I'll slaughter you, I'll slaughter you." And I just run for my life. Even if it's not intended to me, because I'm shit fuck scared, and I'm going to make a shortcut from the train through the academia that I studied where the Me Too MK Ultra stuff happened. And I just thought this is big funny. And and we're gonna have a lot of these. Okay, Jupiter Gemini is just so we're gonna be a lot of humor, a lot of juxtaposition, a lot of funny stuff, okay, happening. um, that being said, it doesn't mean that there isn't grief, it doesn't mean that there isn't exposure, it doesn't mean that there isn't loss. And it's all MK Ultra related, guys. This is the MK Ultra eclipse. This is they're gonna call it the mass psychosis eclipse. It is a big deal. um and it's things you can't ignore anymore. Okay, that's just a part of what it is. So for some, it's a great release, and for some, they are only experiencing the shock of understanding what's going on, um, and having to deal with the implications and the many ways it can send you, in the past year or two at least, or three, and not just. I have found myself for couple of days barely able to move because I was processing something. And tending to political assassination, wow, okay. You're like, okay, if that person goes out of jail, will this still rape a child? Okay. But also quite humorous stuff. Like, I didn't know there's such a thing as Muslim Brotherhood of Satan. The Green Adidas Assassin, Tantric Assassins. Okay, whatever. So you get to that, or a time where I thought I've been successful at something, and then I said, no, the person was just on vacay, and I was like, but and really, like, really weird shit. So for the people that are just like encountering this, and some of you might be just encountering this, it's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a really wild ride. You're not going to be able to ignore a lot of the things that you've been able to, everything you wanted to swipe under the rug. The rug is becoming, this kind of, it's giving the, was it Aladdin? No, Aladdin was when they were flying over the rug. The flying rug. When you stuffed it with that much information, of course, it's kind of like, it's like a tower. It's not on the floor anymore. Okay, if you put one thing under the rug, you just have a little bump. Okay, if you put a couple of things under the rug, you just gotta have like a huge bump, and then at a certain level, it's become like a tower. And then there's a storm, and you have a flying rug, and you just try to surf around this into the mist, which is Neptune with Rahu. It's like, let's go travel, let's dream together, let's do that. There's an A bomb underneath. And so this is a wild solar eclipse. Okay, let's just put it that way. It's a wild solar eclipse. I don't necessarily think it's going to start a war. I don't necessarily think it's going to end a war. But it's definitely going to be bringing the things, even if it's not like your 8th house or your 12th or some heat in the Cadent house. It's definitely going to stir up all the things. And Libra is notorious for swiping things under the rug. Okay, Libra will change their hair color 1,000 times before they will address an issue. Okay, not catching anyone off guard. But that's just the Libra way. Okay, let's just change the appearance, just change the framing, change how I look at it, change how I look, Even I've been buying makeup. I haven't been buying makeup in like years. And I had a craving to buy makeup. I was indecisive the entire Venus in Libra transit, and then Venus entered Scorpio. It was like a buy makeup, minimalist makeup, but I did it. And that's just the Libra way. Okay, it's like, let's just change the aesthetics, and it's powerful. But then something is unsatisfactory. Something's missing. You cannot bring that which is missing back by putting on some makeup or taking it off. And that is the not so superficial layer of Libra when you begin to really address it or really delve into it. Okay. And again, with Lilith, it's going to be giant stuff. Giant stuff. And it's going to be juxtaposed with the everyday life. Okay, with the everyday reality. Jupiter in Gemini is very much the everyday detail of that which is the grand, the big deal. And I've been, remembering episodes from my life where it's like just a conversation I had with the bestie. And it's like, oh, do you remember Liran? Yes, I remember Liran because mathematical genius. Well, they found a snuff film of him and his boyfriend raping a boy. Okay. Then in retrospective, they did it for the MK Ultra stuff. And you don't even know if they were dissociated when they were doing that, if they were, what is going on. Not because they are psychotic, but because of this mind control thingy. Okay? That would mean that they were tortured as well. Okay, as child or as adult. I don't know. Very likely as child. It's like, oh, that's coming up. It's just an episode. If you knew the person, what does that mean? And we can have the tendency, especially with Libra, to connect, to smooth things over. And I've talked about, if you think about the Ketu relatives, if you think about what hoops did we have to go through? Like if you think about it as the sea, I gave the image of the sea. So when you go swimming in the sea, there are the waves, you cross the waves and then you can swim. Okay, but you think about relations, what are the waves that you've been crossing? You won't be able to ignore them under the Libra solar eclipse, and you won't be able to smooth it over, and you won't be able to do heuristics about this. This is giving something that's bigger than the Me Too, because in the Me Too, the heuristic system changed to accommodate for that. It had to. Okay, so for some, they were not protected, they were not this, they were not that. Okay, I've been through that with people that fought that fight. I have been in that situation myself. And but what I can tell you is that you won't be able to heuristic your way around this. Okay, it's not something's going to be with Ketu, Lilith here. It's not going to be, you're not going to be able to witchcraft your way around this. If your intention is to subdue, no, we are purging diplomacy. We are purging everything Libra has been wanting to say. It will. Okay, that can work both ways, both as for the Libra person, what they've been wanting to say, but also what they've been needing to face. Okay, because if you have been practicing these subduing tactics, using the law in ways that are, not supportive of expression, or using witchcraft in a way that is as to subdue, okay, then this is where think about Beyonce that has a stellium in Libra, and recently again the allegations against extreme witchcraft have been rising. Okay, so this is something that would not be able to be ignored, but also the fact that she might have been expendable child. So it's really about, it is justice, but it's not just the image of justice anymore. Okay, we are purging the image of justice, um, and the balance is shifting. Okay, you won't be able to use tactic like, oh, this person is schizophrenic anymore. Okay, because and so there might be attempt to revert to like direct violence because of this, um, especially as Mars is slowly moving towards the opposition with Pluto. However, um, it is also important to denote that Chiron is in Mars sign. Okay, so this is there is some troublesome issue, but you might be dealing with people who think about people who are like Me Too veterans and dealt with it, and then went to the medical and dealt with that, and then went to healing and dealt with that, and then they're like, you're meeting them, you think you can subdue them, they're like, fuck off. No. Okay, you want to kill me? You want to shoot me? Go ahead, shoot me. But I'm not going to shut up. Okay? We're going to. These people have been tortured already. And they chose to speak up. So this is where you deal with the person at their utmost, having enough of enoughness. Okay? It's not even the Ketu Aquarius. Where if you think about the Me Too, most of that were like actresses, people that were open-heartedly and vulnerability sharing their story, being correct. None of that, because it's not sharing your story to be relatable. Okay, it can be sharing a memory that you have, but it's not coming from trying to find approval, Leo, or even approving for the self-approvement. Okay, or the reclaim. I tell the story in my name. Okay, I show my face, I'm visible. The shame is not by me, shame by other person. We still have kind of like shame going back and forth with Libra, because people go like from that side to that side. But there is something completely different in the sense where you're no longer being diplomatic. It's like you stand your ground. 10 toes down, you stand your ground. So this is not any situation where you can smooth it over by not addressing the truth. And the truth here has to do with something very heavyweight, as you see. Anything that's, or you're imagining, or this is your experience, or no, not everybody has to do that. I mean, of course not. Or, okay, none of that applies. You have to deal with you have to face it to the core. When I said a change from the core, when I talked about the core van out and safer, okay, I meant what I said. I meant what I said. But a change from the core can also give us, if you're okay, if I go back to the core van out story, I hope it's not too many bloopers, but for the core van out story, there's the part where the journalist that put, okay, the kidnapper to prison improved upon the condition, and they were having a friendship, and they were even flying a plane that people made demonstrations for the plane not to land. So this kind of even another level of intricacy here. And what a Libra way of framing that. Anyway, And then at the funeral of that criminal, basically, the journalists spoke and expressed their sincere grief, which of course brought a lot of comments, okay, a lot of things that were chasing him for years and years and years after Corvinal died. And that will also be, hey, MK Ultra or not, that person entered my heart and was meaningful to me in some way. And I'm not going to, the meta here, I'm not going to hide that all along, as I'm not going to pretend as if I don't know what I know and I don't understand what I understand about structures of secret societies, MK Ultra Masons, and so on and so forth, with all the intricacies. Okay, maybe not all the intricacies, but definitely quite some. So we're also going to have big Corvan out stories coming up. Don't expect this to be simple. And a lot of controversies, a lot of things that would be difficult to understand, but this is the time when people begin to understand. I think it was Lincoln that said that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. And I add, this is the time in history where they try to fool all the people all the time. Naturally, it's not meant to succeed. And pretty much everybody knows that. Okay, you are going to have, with this purging that happens, there's a certain healing to the yin yang, feminine, masculine, Lilith stories, where like, hey, that person that did so and so, they were also raped, they were also tortured, they were also this, they were also that. And that can create a situation where like, hey, it's not about shifting blame from one place or another, but about abolishing expandable children, for example, honoring the yin and the yang, and the not putting one above the other, or saying one punishes the other, and abolishing slavery, and all these things that open up the road for November 19 when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius again. I'm thinking about I was joking about the rebellion of Ghetto Lodge. You know what Lodge is, okay? That being said, some of us have been processing this for years and years and years, while others are like, with this eclipse, are like, poof, that's a purgatory. And that can be something very like, the freezing Corvin out, okay? Or that can be something like the freeze catching Corvin out, just kind of like, which can be kind of like you're amiable, you're this, you're that. And then, what do you mean you made that? What do you mean? I mean, of course I know you had to do that. Okay? So the amiability does not mean we don't tend to the issue, but it's definitely bringing in episodes from history where we had to tend to the issues not necessarily through direct court confrontation, although we will have some of those. But we are going towards the dream, the creation, the song, the expression, the kind of indirect thing that you cannot say even in words because the intricacy is so tremendous. Okay, the juxtaposition of childhood memories coming up, and you're not sure why, but they're coming up in kind of a love buffer, whereas there's certain juxtapositions here that can play out as very intense synchronicities, and very intense messages and intricacies around our feelings when it comes to that. So very, very powerful. On the international arena, it's also going to be quite powerful. Yes, um, one of the things I've been checking, like a little girls, like what's happening until October 1st, until the time where Ruto is supposed to be head of NATO and enter his job October 1st, and it's like the question of immunity and so on. And every day I was like, what's up with that? What's up with that? What's up with that? Um, and it's giving type of these organizations that are diplomatic, that are supposed to bridge over a lot of nations. So whether it's the EU, the UN, even the ICC, um, it's given that, okay, there's something there that we're purging, or even the procedurals that we've been doing. There's something big and tremendous that we're purging there, because we're no longer halting ourselves, okay, because of that. And you're so curious about what a lot of figures will have to say, how will it go, and so on and so forth. So that's just another layer, okay? Um, the Lilith layer is going to be very deep, and we're going to have a lot more balanced view on Lilith. I said it a while ago, okay? If you've been the type to say, oh, Lilith has been so oppressed, so this, so that, you might run into situations where, under the guise of Lilith, people did satanic abuse, under the guise of Lilith, people did extreme witchcraft that is malefic, and so on, or what people call succubus, which basically suck the life energy out of somebody through sexual encounter. And you're like, the fuck, why did I need to okay. um and so actually my psychologist did that to me at the end of the therapy, just like really weird. And I'm like, okay, so there are those weird shit that's happening. And mind you, a person might be, can be certain level of awareness. With him it was very aware. But it's like you go to the room and it's like, okay, they address that and threaten your life, and so and MK Ultra. But this, like, okay, that succubus thing is not just shaming women for being sexual. The people who actually used the astral to do like weird shit like that. But we also don't want to shame sexuality and so on. And we understand that the creation of what people call the succubus is along raping someone of their soul. So then they perpetuate that, which I guess is how my psychologist became abusive. And you have to also take that into account, okay? And purging for sexual trauma, okay, purging the sexual traumas, purging where the succubus or where the those things. But also, if you've only been thinking about Lilith as the succubus, the witch, the this, the that, you might be like, oh, Lilith was the woman who did not agree to be abused, did not agree to be subdued, said, I will not go either above or below you, I'm beside you. And that is, yeah, very, very, very fascinating. I had a synchronicity with a book of Hanif Qureshi. And Hanif Qureshi, one of the lines that he wrote, I don't remember which novel it was, but it was, I rather write with a hard dick and a soft pencil, not the other way around. And of course, thinking like, what would be the female version of that? But anyway, it's something I very much related to. And as I was tending to do my teeth, I was going to begin to work my teeth, and finally, and after 3 years with all the COVID weird shit, I saw a book of Hanif Qureshi in the room with a book of Louise Hay, which is very calming to see. It was like a dentist, and some other, like, I don't remember what else was there, but it was kind of very interesting to look at the books when when I went there. It was next to a guitar shop, which was another gigantic synchronicity. um, so okay, when you think about these things, um, so you think about the place of the erotic in the creative life, and the fact that yes, we would rather write with with a hard dick or whatnot, and a soft pencil, or not the other way around. and that's the books we want to read as well, and that's the creation we want to watch as well. And sexual energy is a place in the world. One of the things that the MK Ultra would be doing was to program people to feel pleasure when they okay, and then there is the question of consent, and unfortunately it's not okay, it's not working. It's not working as willing consent. um, and and so uh, that's something, okay, to consider. Again, we cannot work our way around, and yet the role of dissociation with people that have been through sexual boundary violation and then need to have alcohol or have something that's subduing, uh, with the challenges again that it posts, attempting to break through the walls of orgasm. So those things are definitely going to come about, not only juristically, but simply relationally, psychologically, sexually, creatively. The dissonances, there's a lot of dissonances that we hold. I remember when I was, right at COVID, I was trying to address recovery, okay, of the ability to orgasm and so on. And I remember I did certain videos I had to take down because I felt that something there was not hitting essence in a way that I might want to share it with the public, or some of this not yet. It's just not, there's something here is not really processed, or something here is not really healed. And it had to do with those dissonances. So it's very intricate. And it's going to be, okay, topic of discussion, because we're going out of the court system and we are moving forward into rethinking, okay, for how to heal. Very simply put, the sexual trauma, even to do with mother wounds, womb wounds, birthing process, and sexuality in the relation to the mother figure, the father figure, just kind of like all these things that are transforming. Okay, because Rahu is ruled by Mars, which is in Cancer, and Cancer ruled by the Moon, which is with Ketu. So it's taking us, it's kind of like back to the future. And and there's also the element of something that's unexpected, because Uranus is ruled by Venus, that's ruled by this Mars. So there's a little bit of cyclical motion here, where you might very likely have been feeling really having cyclical motion with 2017. Big time. Okay. 2007 can also be big on that. 2008 because of Pluto in Capricorn. 2012 Neptune. Okay. 2018 Uranus ingress into Taurus tropically. And all of these cyclical ways in which you are reprocessing something is very unexpected. What will be the outcome of this reconsidering, reprocessing, readdressing? But it's not the same thing. Okay, it's just not the same thing. You're meant to move forward in a way. Right now, you don't feel that you're just like within this loop because you're still processing for the grief. Okay. Okay, think about the Me Too versus, oh, that was human trafficking. Oh, wait, that was, oh, the pedophilia is actually masquerading for mind control by the government and sex espionage of children and child assassins, because they want the children, adults to remember the pedophilia and not to remember for like the government stuff. And the government is global government. Okay, and that is like, but that was to me too. That was like the programming weird shit. You thought like you're a psychotic, so you're not. And And then you went to therapy and you get mind control from the psychologist. Again, like, who's going to believe you? Um, and then it's COVID, and everybody was like, "Oh, where have you been during Pfizer? Where have you been? Where have you been in the past 20, 50, 100 years of MK Ultra?" You really thought they're imagining? And most of us, even when it happens to people, well, the self can think they're imagining because it's really far fetched. Okay, so um, the oils that are coming in are having to do with those things, okay, very directly. And coriander is more about the creative expression already. Camphor and the chamomiles are more about, truth processing, relief for the lungs, and so on. But coriander is very particular. This is why I was thinking about maybe it would even come into Essence of Desire. It's a very Hanif Qureshi oil, okay? It's made from the seed. So seed oils are as what you think of them. Okay, you plant a seed that's supposed to grow with love. Geranium might also come into mind when that. So this is, and very importantly, this is not the type of thing you could curate with more violence. Okay? It's not the type of thing that you could use that same violence that was used in the Me Too or in the wars and expect that to not a bomb, a bomb. If people still think for either feminine or masculine have no right to be, this is where it backfires in the worst way. Okay? And it's going to address what we think of as nature, both around children, around women, around soldiers, around sex, around the penis, vaginas, is all these things. And all those MK Ultra programming fall flat, both medically, spiritually, psychologically, consciously. So it's going to be a lot of repent and awakening for some. Seeing something coming up again from those years, memories, and readdressing, okay, things. But again, it's not going to lack like humorous phases, and yet you would have to address things. Okay, you won't be able to swipe it under the rug anymore. You would really want to, but it's not the eclipse that allows for that. And those are the things that can make you sick to your stomach, simply put. Okay. And no matter how elegant we'll be around this, the purging happens in some way, shape, or form. So yes, as for asteroids and stuff, actually, there's a channel called Uranian Astrology in Iranian astrologer in Instagram that talks about kind of like the asteroids and the points and stuff like that. So a lot of things to do with living alone by choice. This is where, again, for me, immediately Mark Rutte comes in. It's on Rao is on his Lilith, and it's right where he's supposed to be, head of NATO, litigated, not litigated. Really, really. And this is about the person moving to live alone by choice, also about mothers and children. So think about the kidnapped children, the 1100. I think we're going to, as I said, we're going to hear about this person a lot. And it's a lot about reconsidering relationships. So it's not just the Libra signification, also fixed star signification. And again, not being people pleasing, moving towards sovereignty, and considering. Think about resources. Think about, let's say, buying a house. Okay, so what kind of benefits you have as a married couple versus a single person, or during divorce, acknowledging the children, and so on. Axis of Libra and Aries, I notice, is big on Netherlands. They have it also in the royal family. So this is, it's giving Netherlands, okay? It really does. Axis of Virgo and Pisces is big on Palestine, just Palestine, okay? Not Israel, but just Palestine itself. There is a Palestine outside of Israel, kind of like reclaiming that I'm sure is existing, but they have, but the Muslim Brotherhood of Satan is not like representative of Palestine, I hope. You tell me, but Shirley, but Zionism is nothing. Yes, it's true. We're like, well, what do Israelis love doing the most? Travel. Tell them to go back to Europe. Most of them have dual passports. We're just too fucking post-traumatic to be able to work. That's it. That's the truth. Okay. So we have to find creative ways to live, and so we're innovative. That's it. So I guess it's true to Dutch people to some extent. It's a lot of relation on that level, from a bank perhaps. Look how it all goes to the banking with the ruler of the eclipse in Scorpio. Now you're gonna probably ask me, will there be financial crisis? Will there be this? Will there be that? I don't know. The credit score for Israel has been decreased again. And you notice that with the war, it was actually increasing. So it's kind of like Israel was forced to do a war, and then they had to be dependent on their currency, the strength of their currency, in perpetuating whatever you want to call it in Gaza. Mind you, I live within these territories right now, and you're not, those outside these territories have not been pretty good in providing, like, you know. So what do you want, right? Access to choice. That being said, this is not a speak eclipse. Okay, it's not a speak eclipse. So Ascendant of Israel here is not so involved. This is why I think it's giving Netherlands more so than Israel. And it's giving UN, EU, ICC. Yes, Algol is still pinpointed. Uranus is still on the Son of Israel. It's not like we're not going to hear that name. But some people are probably like, oh, we're sick of it. We're sick of hearing about you. We're sick of this. Just like, there's a transit on Israel's sun. What can I do? It's going to be over in like a year or so. So, and then you move to the United States, of course. Right now is with Pluto and the elections and this and that.
There are other astrologers doing that right now. It's just so busy in the sky. I'm doing Netherlands. So allocations of missions. Um, Anything more I can think about the oils. Um, Use them. Okay, use them. Again, it's camphor, it's the chamomile, it's coriander. I have none of them. And so, disclaimer, I have none of them in my house. I just ordered Blue Lotus again, and that's it. I have some talismans. So, okay, keep the point of grace. I did buy free transportation until the end of the month, almost the end of like 2 days before the end of the month. So I'm like, I've learned from my not mistakes, but that was definitely me doing the 1100 at the end of last month was definitely giving, hey, I need freedom of movement, or else I start to speak. uh, and then, kind of like relax on the road. And yes, a lot of discussions about the ceasefire. I don't know if there's ceasefire or not ceasefire. They've trimmed the trees in my, in our the property where I stay, and that is a very painful. It happens every year. It's very painful, and I hate that. And yeah, there's not much I can say about that, but that was very painful. So I've been going through something, okay, and and then my outlet is like, well, come on, did they Sanji Farute? I don't know. that's the vibe. Um, okay, this is definitely going to be a eclipse where some dark humor is going to rise to the surface, and at the same time being triggered for that because Mars is in Cancer. So we might even trigger ourselves. I had it a lot when I was recovering from the Me Too. I was triggering myself all the time. And I can't blame anybody but me. And I can't blame me either. So we're going to have a little bit of that when we trigger ourselves. But you think about that loss of control. We talk about there are various losses of control. Okay, there's some of the loss of control. It can also be a release of some sort. And I mean the creative loss of control. You lose yourself in creation, and that creation can be provocative. And a lot of people will be agent provocateur for this one. And yeah. But don't forget that the rage exists and the grief exists and that we can't swipe it under the rug exists and everybody's right. I want to say this. This is the eclipse where everybody's right because everybody's been through so fucking much that everybody's right. Everybody's got something to say. Everybody has a point. And this is exactly what it is. In essence, everybody has a right to be, right? So if I think about my front yard as a study case, where I had all the legitimacy to do whatever the F I wanna, without even asking too much with the front yard, but then it looked like I was neglecting it, but I wasn't, and I wasn't communicating what I was doing. Then today I come to a completely trimmed, but the rosemary bush, mind you, everything completely trimmed, the trees, everything that's been going on there, and and not only that, it was synthetic grass sitting like waiting to be installed. And I cannot blame anybody because it wasn't like I was communicating what I was doing to anyone. And then there's just this decision that looked like, okay, she's probably very tired of caretaking. There was a war, there was this, there was that. And there was just this decision to leave that bush and to kind of like respect the rosemary bush and then to do something nice with the garden and so on. So nobody intended any harm, but you can imagine that I was just, you know, grieving. And I felt that even before I saw what happened. So you think about even these very simple things and situations where the person's not communicative. Okay, maybe they're grieving, maybe they're at loss, maybe they're sick, maybe they're just, they're not really communicating, and then you have to take a decision, and then you try to understand what is going on and you try to be respectful, but you don't really have everything going on, and nobody can really communicate still what is going on because they're still processing, working on it, and not really, exposing things. And you just try to do the best thing for everyone. I guess it's kind of like an action is taken towards this direction where there's a fog about what is the right. Okay, Rahu, Neptune with Mars, there is a fog about what is the correct form of action to take. But then there has to be taken decisive action around this. So this is also a topic of this eclipse. There can be such decisive action where, like, okay, the person doesn't communicate, the self, okay, there's lack of communication, problem with the communication, or problem with someone taking action in a certain sort of way, okay, Chiron in Mars sign, and then there has to be a decision that is made and everybody tries to be respectful, and there is still grief and loss even when everybody was, even if that was the right decision, okay, maybe that was the right decision, and even if, then that's, there's something about the communication here that is done through action. Mercury and Mars sign in general, they mean communication through action. And you can see by the action that's been taken that the attempt to consider, to be considering is being shown. If I take a look at me seeing that like everything is trimmed off, but that rosemary bush, it was very evident that it was growing, was still there. It's kind of like this respect. And you see that done with the action rather than actual communication. Okay? So it's like people communicating omens, but it's not necessarily because they mean to be delusional or they mean to be hiding. It's just like everybody's grieving. Everybody's grieving right now, and there is attempt to be considerate, and then, but still decisive action must be taken. And so, and this is just the way it is. Okay, somebody must deal, must, do something about something, and yet there is the attempt to be considering would be shown with action. So what I invite you to do this eclipse is to try to think about how the action has actually been considered. Again, I want to tell you another story. When I was in between houses in Netherlands, I had 2 passports, and I went to the gemeente, to the municipality for what I was supposed to go to kind of like receive an address for something for the bureaucratic stuff. And she sees me, she says, go to the immigration. And I thought she was just dismissing me. Apparently she was trying to be helpful. She was just being called because I guess she's bitter about the fact that I have to go to the immigration, but she's trying to be helpful because with my Dutch passport, I would still need to wait. And of course, I was waiting to just show my Dutch passport or show this, show that. But with a foreign passport, I would have a chance, not an Israeli one, but perhaps I would have a chance to receive housing faster than the locals. Okay, so you think about those situations where our level of interpretation can be misguided, where we think we are being mocked at or we think we're being ignored, but actually the opposite, it's the other way around. We are being seen, we are being appreciated, we're being considered, and it's done with action rather than with communication, okay? So And this is another thing that I predict to happen around this eclipse. Whether it is a legislative action, a legislative decision. Libra is a lot about managing assets, managing resources. There's going to be grief and loss, but there's also going to be very evident consideration. And I want you to hold that image of that rosemary bush and think about what's the rosemary bush in your front yard, okay? What's the place where you can see that they left that rosemary bush. Okay, what's the place where you can see that they left that grace, where you can see that within all that was said, all that was done, all that led to, okay, procedures that can be in the beginning juristic, all these things, what can you see that was done to genuinely consider you? And I'd like to offer that this is a genuine act of grace. Okay, this genuine act of grace where you're being seen, but it's going to be with action. Okay, and it's not necessarily going to be evident in the words. Okay, there's a lot of telepathic communication, a lot of empathic communication here. Okay, because people are processing deep shit, even people that crossed over. Okay, right now even people crossed over, I believe, processing very deep shit. They have the love buffer to do so, but there's also for the place where people maybe needed to retreat, and even if there's some time past what's going on earth. I also would like to suggest as an astrologer, and we see a lot that transit to even the natal chart of a deceased person, even if the deceased older than 36 would have gone to the Navamsha, are still shown, okay? And Saturn transits are still Saturn transits, and eclipses still eclipses, they're still shown. And sometimes it's by this that you can see that where you thought, okay, you thought maybe, I don't know, you're not receiving omens, or you're not receiving this, or you're not receiving that. Sometimes even by looking at the chart, you're like, oh, that happened exactly when so-and-so was on Rahu, which was fated, and so-and-so was in midheaven, and so-and-so, okay? That can be very, very prominent. And it's another way in which you can see, okay, you can ask for the familiar omens, you will find them. And you can see tremendous ways of kind of like validation and support that can happen through that. It's a time where there's definitely going to be communication of other ways, energy, through action, mediumship, telepathy. Even if you didn't have these forms of communication, Rahu Neptune is definitely giving that, or even creative communication. Okay, so that is a lot of the things that have been going on. And again, bringing back the oils that can help us to bring the temperature and bring the blood flow back in line. The emotions here are stirred, okay? The emotions are very intricate. They're not one way or another way, okay? Because there's this juxtaposition of, again, these Ketu relations, this past life or ethereal or whatnot. It's not just karmic, it's just something that's genuinely been benevolent, and at the same time, there is something very deep to process that includes just those little traumas, okay? So you had to deal for what people, this is time where maybe people will try to forgive or show grace or show, hey, I still care about you, hey, I still see you in a good light, and so on and so forth. And all through this, it's not for nothing that I said change from the course, not for nothing that I mentioned the Korban out, for those who know the story, because it's those type of stories and even more, okay, even more. And this is definitely an eclipse that's going to show us that if we think we had a consensus around something, there's it's more intricate. So very, very deep. You see how everything was Jupiter ruled, but it was Saturn hour, and it was Mars night already. Okay, was going from Venus day to Mars night. Yes, with Mars in Cancer. Um, yeah, I think we've been talking about this eclipse a lot, and the oils that I gave are again, I cannot recommend you the use of essential oils without you like checking in that it's safe for you to take anything for blood. You might not want to involve like the camphor. That's important. Naturally, if you are going through chemo, then any essential oil will cause to cleanse the chemo from the body. You have to take that into consideration. Pregnancy, the chamomile, the Roman chamomile should be safe, but again, you know your body best. But if there are no other significations, you can do your trial and error and work safely. That can assist you. Okay, there's something that can assist you. What you call the energy of these oils that can assist you throughout this time, or that the eclipse will bury the symbols of this oil. And you think about what reduces inflammation, something that allows you the freedom of movement, something like a warm hug, um, or an act of grace. What invokes your creativity, something like release of your emotions and the humor in the truth, okay, the juxtapositions, and being able to, it's not about smoothing it over so much as it is about when the entire truth is out and then you go outside and somebody, I'll slaughter you, I'll slaughter you, I'll slaughter you, just talking about housing first, healing psychosis and everything. You're like running like a madman from away from them. Okay, that's just life. Okay, it's not smoothing anything over, it's just addressing life. And yes, and those things, you're gonna have a lot of deep insights. Relations are intense, and with Sun Ketu, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're separating. Some of you might, and some of you, if it's death of someone, it can be. But for some of you, you're not separating. You're just coming into contact with a Ketu Lilati. That may or may not have Rahu significations for you. Okay, you have something with Rahu, it means that you're going towards this direction with this person. Okay, benefic with Rahu is Rahu Venus. Rahu moon can be very benefic. Have to make sure that you have to make sure some stuff. Okay, Rahu moon is not benefic in a natal chart. In a synastry, it means that you might be supportive emotionally, but you can also be emotionally codependent. Rahu Venus has to be one of my favorites. You just kind of like, hey, we just want to Netflix and chill and travel the world together or something like that. Rahu Jupiter can be very, 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 okay, extraordinary and very extra, okay. Okay, whereas Rahu Lilith can be quite intense. Okay. So Rahu Mars can be a lot about taking action, which can go various ways. And can well, it can mean separation eventually, or conflict. It can also mean growing passion as well. Like you really don't know where it's going to go. It's not an easygoing, okay, type of stuff. Rahu Saturn, you might have Rahu Saturn with persons supposed to accompany you into ushering you into your Rahu phase. Okay, so um, I can definitely recognize when the Rahu Saturn relative came into my life. Rahu Ketu, okay, it means you have conjunction. It just means you are born kind of like 9 years apart from each other. Rahu Ketu can be very significant and can accompany you throughout your life. It's basically where one of you is going, the other one, where one of you has been, the other one is going, but it's mutual. So both of you have both the benevolent love towards each other that is truly, truly benevolent. I have it out of sign, um, and I can definitely. I don't understand it yet, but I can definitely see the benevolence. Okay, and and that can be a lifelong relationships. Absolutely. Rahu. This is interesting, okay? It means you both of you are going towards the same direction, okay? Your joint process of growth. So you can feel, it's kind of like, if you think about the moon phase, where both of you have the same moon phase, okay? So both of you are heading somewhere. You might accompany someone, and this is where you might meet around with a crisis or grief or something like that. The crisis of ushering yourself into your Rahus. Okay, so that can be a thing where you want to see. Okay, Rahu Chiron might mean that you process some wounds around ushering yourself into your Rahu phase, in the next phase of life. Um, yes, Rahu Sun. This is another one that I like. You are growing. You are shining. Somebody's somebody is growing into their shine, okay? And this is a different form where evolutionary astrology would be Pluto opposition sun, where you're evolving into the sun, you're evolving into shining, which can feel like coming out of the darkness into the light, but it's crisis, okay? It's a lot to process then. Um, and the Rahu is like there's something in you that hopefully is eager to go there, um, and then Rahu's sun, there is eagerness to shine like that person, like that sun person, and depending on the relations between it can be very benevolent. Okay, you're growing into your shine. You're fated to grow into your shine, and such relationship can arise. Right now, we're dealing with soul ketu, but still some soul Rahus can be. You have to see what is with ketu, which means where are you coming from with this person, okay? Ketu Venus, maybe you're past lovers or past sisters or something like that, and so on and so forth. And then, is there something with Rahu in the composite, in the synastry? Is there an ongoing theme that you're heading somewhere together, or is it just the Ketu thing that accompanies you right now and is not necessarily heading somewhere together? There are other significations. It's not just Rahu Ketu, but this is something to consider for this eclipse. Maybe you're going through with each other through this phase of life, rather through kind of like a forever relation. The eclipse is emphasizing the where you've been, what you're processing, what have you come together to do. So I want you to understand that anybody that comes into your life right now or comes into your mind as I say it is somebody that you have a past with, and very likely also beyond this life. And so all these people, okay? So the question is we have a future with this person, or is it you have a past with this person and it's coming around to be Okay, whether as a love buffer, or you really have to understand what's going on there. Um, but catarrhalitis tend to be very benevolent. Okay, you genuinely are benevolent towards this person or towards one another. This genuine benevolence. The funny thing that happens here is, what are you guys doing in this life? Okay. Um, for example, when I was doing the Kim Jong Un chart, he had Ketu onto my Uranus, which may mean that he was my Uranus in past life, or I was his astrologer, or something like that. And then in this life, it's kind of like, oh, let's just give it like just very different life, right? Completely different life. So we're gonna have a lot of these. Um, this is with Lilith. So Lilith means that you have a past to do with Lilith stories that can create the intricacy and the challenge. You have been there and now you're here again. Now, if you're listening to me, you know you need to honor the yin, you honor the yang, to honor the feminine, honor the masculine, blah, 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 even though it's a. And you know what? Stigma helps here. What you think stigmatically is masculine, what you think stigmatically is feminine, and honoring that and integrating that, that helps here. Okay, do not underestimate the power of the binary division in order to create something that is allowing to be flowing and flexible. Okay, again, think about belly dance. Okay, you separate the lower body, the upper body, and then you unite this movement together. So the stigma. Okay, what is feminine for you? What is masculine for you? Participate in that, embrace that, and then you can come into flow. Okay, if it's naturally coming for you into flow, fine. But if it doesn't, um, then stigma might even be helpful. Okay, I would always be a little bit pissed about all these trans men saying, "Oh, I don't shave my armpits, or I don't shave my legs because it makes me feel masculine." And I'm like, okay, well, the hair actually makes me feel feminine because I'm more comfortable in my body and I don't worry about, if it's smooth like a baby, and kind of like that. But that's my personal, like, that's my own shit. I don't have to, deflect it onto others, and vice versa. So stigma can assist you in the process of radical acceptance, and allow it. Okay, you don't have to be the most evolved ape on the planet for this eclipse. So the Lilith eclipse tells me that you have a past, and Lilith's story is about balancing that equity, and there's probably a story there. Okay, and so this story may involve places where you were used to certain type of structures. Maybe even one went away because of that. And so if you want to, it can either be that you process this and you understand what is your type of equity, what is your type of being in a relationship, or that this is why you want to be moving in with yourself. Okay, why you want to be choosing to be single for a while, especially if Libra is your seventh house. Because maybe you understand, okay, there are things that still need to happen for me to have the type of relationship that I want. um, okay, there's equity that still needs to happen. Hopefully it's not like, okay, somebody is just infused with a weird cult and you just have to leave them. But it can be kind of like, hey, we both have something to process here, and we might not be able to do that together, with the type of things that come to mind, and the type of things that most people had to do when they're the secret societies. Yes, I have to admit that I don't like to admit that, because many of us have been craving even relationships, or have been doing a lot to balance their relational styles. And many of us may find that uh, if we are benevolent towards one another, then we need to process it separately. Okay. So that might be the theme, okay, for this eclipse for the while. And um, and it definitely means for those of you who also have Rahu with Lilith, like me, it's on my Rahu, like Rahu is on my Lilith. First of all, let's drink a glass of wine in our honor. Like we're processing deep shit, okay? I mean, but hey, I'm comforted by the fact that some people have Lilith and Aries with Rahu. And so, like proportions, okay? The Russian antidote for every ailment is proportions. So, um, so this, yeah, this might be very powerful thing because you've been dealing with Lilith from one perspective and now you're dealing with Lilith from like another perspective. Okay, all of our first phase Aries Lilith in the house, um, or House of Representatives. Um, so yeah, given that it's that, it means that there is an extra flavor to this eclipse, okay? And it's Lilithesque. So and you know, with Keter Relatis, we're like, oh, we've been lovers in past life and it's so beautiful and so this and so that. Was like, hey, somebody may have been in a situation where today, from our perspective, we would look at it and you'd say, oh, that was not something that I would live with. You know, Elvis has been coming a lot for me. I understand why, and I still don't. But Elvis was married to a woman. There was one of his girlfriend, women, I don't remember. She said that her relationship with Elvis was such, maybe, I don't know, we were one of them. I have no idea. Her relationships with Elvis was such that he would decide what she would wear, what she would this, what she would that. She was like his Barbie, but she said it was feminism was not there yet. So we both enjoyed this dynamic where he would buy me the clothes that he likes me to wear, and I would be like his Barbie, and he would kind of like and adore. And you know, if you think about how people dress their pets in all kinds of, and that was kind of the relationship. And even though it's nothing that we would think, you know, is feminist today, they were very happy with this relationship. So it could be something as simple as that, that you were kind of like, you know, this Elvis couple, and now you're like, maybe a part of you wants to bask in that, but a part of you also needs another type of relation, and you're not satisfied. Okay, I said what I said. The phrase stopping from the bottom here might be in almost all cases except for like genuine abuse obsolete, because there is a lot more sovereignty, there's a lot more decisions that the subservient or ex-subservient partner wants to make about how they look, how they this. I even think about, you know, parental relations and adulthood and teenagehood. I think about the first time when I was cutting my hair and my mom went balloonies. I was like, what the fuck happened to you? Because they were really offended that I don't let them cut my hair anymore. But that was just me wanting to experience my own creativity, even if I, you know, make mistake or whatnot. And you think about those type of relations in erotic relationships between people. You think about somebody having a dildo, okay, somebody masturbating, somebody who's exploring a type of erotic sovereignty that perhaps in past life they didn't have. Okay, it doesn't have to be like horrid or rapist. It's like, hey, there's certain side of erotic sovereignty here that is celebrated, that wasn't celebrated, and the other partner may not be used to that. or even not be in line with that. So that can lead to, okay, well, I can't be a partner anymore because I'm looking for kind of like dom subservient relations, or it can be more crisis, or it can be, okay, hey, I want to get to know myself and what's my yes no and maybe before I'm able to even be participating in intimate relations, or all these many things. And again, you have to look at Rahu. Okay, if you're going like Rahu Venus, you might the living alone might simply be living alone. And again, I'm sorry, this mark really comes to mind all the time. Um, and one of the things he was known for, it was like he was living alone in Netherlands, and he said that what the last taboo in Netherlands is to for a person to live alone. And I could not but relate to that. I also, I'm 40 years old and I'm living alone, but it's kind of like that can be one of the significations where the sovereignty may express itself in that way. It's kind of like, hey, for some people, it's like, hey, that person wants to celebrate their own eroticism also with themselves or open relationships. But there's something about being alone, being single, that the place of singlehood, you think about married couples where people keep their own surname, okay? They don't do the Miss Carter, okay? They keep their own name. Um, and here that can be, again, the signification. Um, Resources, I said, okay, if you think about the benefits married couple used to have for having an apartment, so it might be decision to live alone. It needs to be backed up by real estate. It needs to be backed up by resources, by legislation. If you think about even housing first or housing for people with trauma, it's like, no, you can't live as partnerships. Or even the way we think about homelessness, and a lot of people sleeping together. I know with the refugees, a lot of people have been talking about, hey, I only have this space for my family, and so are the refugees. And so the understanding that it's a different when you take a vacation and you sleep in the same room together, it's only a couple of days, and it's a complete other difference where this refugee situation and people have to leave. Okay, and they're like, oh, I do need space. I think about the COVID lockdowns, where for me the COVID lockdown was like, hey, I wouldn't get more than that in Nederland apartment. It's not enough for you. You're heading 40. You're supposed to live in a place where you can actually live, and that was very simply put. It was 2 times in quarantine, not being sick. It's just somebody coming to visit me. 2 times in quarantine for 2 weeks each, and that was like, how'd you like your, I wouldn't get more than that in Netherlands apartment, a one room student room. Was like, I don't know, I'm retired. I don't need more than that. Okay. I was like, oh, the people that tell you to go to a lockdown, they live in these mansions. Okay. Then you go to the other extreme. And you learn, it's like, hey, I need space. But I took it to the joke of, the Hitler living space. Okay, I took it all the way there. I really did. Okay, so can you tell that I'm from Gemini? Anyway, that is definitely going to be the point. We're going to want more sovereignty and more singlehood, even if we do stay in relationships. It doesn't mean that if you're like, ascendant Aries, you're going to divorce or separate, but definitely, even you think about even kinky couples, okay, where you've been codependent in each other's bumhole for a while, quite literally, and then this eclipse, you might need to take some space. You might need to live differently. You might revise your kink. You're purging even some kinky type of relations, and Libra can be very kinky, so there's some kink that you're no longer into, and that can negate your entire power exchange relations. And then maybe you could be friends, but it's no longer satisfying for the other person's erotic desires. Um, and that can be through to processing some sort of grief or to experiencing some sort of loss. Okay? Our sexuality is dynamic, it is transforming. And particularly if you become a bit more vanilla because you love yourself more, and that was what it was sitting on, that can be particularly crisis point. So I feel like some couples are going to have that type of, you know, letting go. Again, think about the coriander again. How it's so creative and Martian. It arouses your senses. Um, and then what eroticism comes out that you want to celebrate, and who can you celebrate that with, okay, is going to be a big deal. Um, and Rao is with Neptune, so Neptune can be given role play. Neptune can be given. Oh my God, think about one of the memes that I wrote about the natural attraction between um, uh, 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 social engineers and whistleblowers. Okay, because Neptune can be espionage. Okay, but again, with the Rahu Neptune is hard aspect, so we can be a bit delulu or a lot delulu. Okay, where it might be that eventually it's not the type of you want to make place this eclipse. So the fact that um, particularly if you think about erotic intelligence, the set of things you both genuinely enjoy is what you can explore together. And this might be a bigger set, it might seem to you a bigger set of things than it actually is. Um, I think this is the high risk around this. You might think that you can celebrate more than you can actually celebrate together. Okay? And this can also be about the relational style. Okay, um, and, and that can go in various ways. With Uranus in Taurus, it can mean that one of you needs a type of relational style. It's a bit unusual, and there are many ways you can be unusual. Okay, if you are ancestry of people who've only been in open relationships, your being monogamous would be unusual. And you say, Shirley, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I cannot tell you that. I cannot spill you that tea, right? Um, so there are some people who live in that type of, I have Dutch, I have these Netherlands, okay? So, whereas on the other way, for some of you, that might mean that your partner wants a more open relationship, or that you are coming from traditional marriage sort of settings, and you're like, no, I don't like that, or I prefer to be single, um, or I prefer to be single for a while. It does denote that singlehood, also the single parent plays a big role here. Okay, so and again, it's a resource, it's a legislation question. If you think about the 1100 in Netherlands during COVID, they kidnapped 1100 people by proxy with taxation, and it was not one prime minister; it was an entire parliament. I mean, they could do impeachment, right? If that was just prime minister, they could do impeachment. They didn't. Okay, so don't blame the prime minister. Um, Especially not when he's just so accommodating for everybody's vision. That was the common ground. So, and if there's something hidden here, extortion, snuffle, okay, leak. Um, so, but that was definitely time where you faced with something that has always been there, but the possibility that, hey, over money, a child can be taken from their parents instead of like accommodating for this parent to have the child. What the fuck? Okay, because they're a single parent, because what? Okay, See, like, what kind of world are we living in? How easy it is to kidnap children, and we know what happened to them. If you don't know what happened to them, listen to Ronald Bernard. So that might be okay, another issue. Okay, and if you blame just the one person out of I don't know how many parliament people, what about impeachment? If it's the president, you could, or if it's the prime minister, you could have impeachment. He didn't. And now they have emergency laws again in the Netherlands to enforce the deportation. So, okay, so that is another thing that we are discussing here. Um, and you see how the juristic system, the legislative system, which means the state, gets into the bedroom. Libra is all about that. Lilith Libra is kind of like, people compare it to like a female Pluto. In that sense, it's not untrue. Okay, she talks about these taboos because we need to address that. And we need to address, okay, for why some people choose to be child free, for why some people choose to live alone or not to date, for why there's many for whys here. And then there is uh, the Lilith story, even without like Aries attached to it, is the story of the type of woman that has not been included in society. Okay, the type of woman that did not go the traditional way about marriage and intimate relations, or kink. Okay, she would not be subdued to her husband, but she was also not in essence a demon, although in her name demonic things were done. So that is something where a lot more people are going to be facing that. If you think about big crises, some people grow together in crisis, and sometimes it's aligned and sometimes not aligned. And some people grow apart in crisis because in crisis they understand that that which has been swiped under the rug can no longer be swiped under the rug. Okay, that thing which you don't agree about can no longer be swiped under the rug. Um, that thing that you have been smoothing over with humor and travel can no longer be not addressed. And you would, with Lilith, you might find that it's affecting your intimacy. Okay, like, and that can be extra crisisy because it very likely with the Keturelan is here the person that you've been leaning into at the time of crisis. Okay, Ketu is where we lean back and we expect a big hug, and and something unexpected comes, and that's that Lilith. So again, for camphor, talking about the grief, for the chamomiles, both the blue and the Roman, for the coriander, okay, that is that's giving us the tones, okay, it's giving us the tones of what we're dealing here, and it's definitely affecting our lungs. There can be even situation where you're grieving someone, and with all this MK Ultra in the air, something is exposed. Everybody that's been doing anything meaningful has encountered the MK stuff. Okay, I talked about it. I was doing even water expands upon cooling. Okay, and then kind of like the two gender sign appears, and I think it's a peace sign or whatnot. I see all the whistleblowers doing that, so I'm like, hey, I'm doing that. And I was like watching through it, was like, no, that's two gender thing. It was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with two genders. Like, no, 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 this is the hermaphrodite codes. It's a symbol that the person is a hermaphrodite, either clone or created to serve the cult, whether they're aware or not. And you're not necessarily told what this symbol is. You can tell it by myself, okay? So you're doing that. It looks like a peace sign. It looks like a very cool sign. You're just doing that and smiling, okay? Um, so yeah, and of course I was very likely intuited to do this sign because I was doing what expands upon cooling, which is addressing something that is so MK Ultra related that I guess that would be allowing that to be accepted. Okay. Um, and this is completely okay. This is completely random. So imagine people who are doing actual shows, who are doing actual stuff within the system, and all that it entails, and all that entails when that with what they do and the electrocution and the dissociative identity and so on. Um, yes, there are many things. Okay, there are many things. And I could see the electrocution. I could definitely see it on my psychologist. I could see it on somebody in academia that had a Me Too case. You can see it as tics, or you can see it as kind of like a change in voltage, literally the electric voltage of the brain. You can see that. Um, uh, and that is, yeah, that's the case. So yeah, I've even had experience where I was exposed to something, and then it was like I was supposed to not remember that, but I insisted on remembering. Um, and then it's still like, even though like you remember, it's kind of like it's in the back of the mind, and you don't know how to deal with that memory because everybody around wants to dissociate from that. It's so difficult. Um, that is definitely something that can say, okay, if we are to be sane, we have to process this not together, unless there are really high significations that you're going to process it together. And Rahu here is with Neptune. So still, the letting go would not be easy. You might even become addicted to each other a little bit because you are both leaning back to each other and leaning forward to escape together. Okay. So, and Mars here, the ruler of Frau, is in trine to Saturn. So it's long time. You're not going to be together for short time. It's going to accompany you. Whether you're going to be living alone, whether you're going to be together, you're going to be accompanied by these encounters for a very long time. So I want you to begin to think. Okay, I'm taking the time with this video, almost 3 hours, and I'm taking the time with this video for a reason, because I feel like many of us need it. Okay, I feel like many of us are going to need to take the time and maybe even watch the video again and watch what comes up kind of again and again and again, maybe even with the scent of the oils. Now Lilith is on the point where the eclipse will be, and the moon already in Leo. I didn't even pay attention. How did you get a 90 with Leo? Moon in Leo is sextiling this Lilith in the sign of the sun. Ooh, sun. Black sun. Not just black sun. Sun. Okay, it's the sun. Anyway, 5 degrees, and it's actually a Leo degree. It's a Leo degree of Libra. So I have to admit, I even there was the 26th, and I know these two people. One of them is a relative that had a birthday on the day, and I was so excited that I felt like I needed to take the day for myself. I couldn't even turn to wish them like happy solar return. It was all that powerful. Ketu can drain your energy a little bit or a lot, but it's also the warm hug of where you're leaning back to your safety point. And with Lilith, your safety point is not exactly where it should be. Okay? In general, we are meant to move towards our Rahu, but with Lilith, it's like your safety point has a Lilith theme to that. And we have not been a humanity that honors every feminine, masculine, we've not been there yet. But we are moving towards that. Okay? So this is already giving me that yes, those things that come up, the people, I want you to take a moment to think about who are the people that are coming up in your life around this Libra theme. Granted that nobody's going to die, you're not going to say, and even if, I tell you that, even if, they're going to accompany you. Another thing that can happen to you is that you can meet the spirit guide you just escape into, or you can meet a spirit guide that you medium with. I think about a time where I read Feynman's books and how that accompanied me into university, and stuck with me for many, many years, and still, like, it's still there. So it was not a relationship with a living person, or the fact that my email is still made to Love Magic on the name of Nick Drake before I even did astrological magic or knew it existed. So it can be those type of people that are spirit guides. Okay. And if I think about like Feynman, I don't know about Nick Drake, but if I think about Feynman, it has been evolving. Okay. I've been growing, I've been evolving, and learning more and more. So now, with all that I said about the system and so on, it's getting really heavy. Like, not heavy in the sense that heavy, it's not heavy at all, but it's getting really heavyweight, the eurekas. Okay, to understand it's just that, like, that what it entailed, that what it means, that's what we don't know. That was what he very likely has not been exempt from. Okay, it was rather candid, more so than others, but still. Um, okay, so definitely more recent figures. So you could definitely be meeting or be going through process with people that have not even been in a relationship with you, but are some sort of like spirit guides or meant to accompany you, and you're going into the dream state with. And again, Neptune, around Neptune, it can be delusional just as much as it can be a sweet escape. And Jupiter is applying to slowly square this Neptune. So there is something inconvenient both about where you're coming from. Okay. And it can be the point where you've not been taking that into consideration, or you've not been considering this as a relation, and then you can have a bit more understanding. Like, you weren't really thinking about, oh, what if I had actually had past life with this person, and you think about it, it's like, oh, that's a nice idea. Okay, well, there is a Lilith-esque topic that comes up with his past life as well. Again, I'm giving, you think about the Elvis example, that is the most liked, okay? The most liked thing here. And you think about the Rahu point, um, it's kind of like an into the mystic, into the mist, or something like that. So, so where you want to lean back into this person, or lean back to like past life memories for those who have them, or lean back to something, there's a little bugging you there. Okay, if we want to lean forward to something, there's a Neptune, foggy. Okay, it is foggy. It can be delusional as much as it can be highly spiritual. Um, and yet Mars isn't trying to Saturn, which tells me that where you're heading is actually it has longevity, and the harmonic aspect between Mars and Saturn is harmonic aspect. You know, when I was writing my thesis proposal, I was using Larry Loudon as theoretical background. This is where I wander into the mystic with you. Okay, it's gonna be a very long video, I think. Already is. And I wonder what my mom they wanted to tell me now, because maybe that's the reason. Maybe I'm escaping with you now. Who knows? But I was writing about the need to have a bridge between the conservative and the innovative in science. It's Larry Loudon. Okay, I was just like applying that, and it was the square with Mars and Saturn, and the person I had kind of like the weird shit with the MK Ultra shit within academia. People call it the Me Too, but it's just like it's MK Ultra, okay? Um, they had a Mars square Saturn also with me. We had Mars square Mars. We had a Mars square Saturn. So I was thinking about the crisis between the conservative science or the older generation and the younger generation and the innovative science. Okay, not that they were not innovative, it's just kind of like this friction that is both manifesting progress, but here the harmonious aspect is where we do something together, or we came to do something that has a longevity, that has a telos that is meant that and that is working. That's the part that's actually working, because this is where the conservative and the innovative would be in good relations. They would grow and learn from one another. Um, they'd be interested, okay? The Saturn person would be interested in the insights of Mars, and Mars would be interested in the teachings of Saturn. You know what? Maybe that Elvis point can be even the type of relations where somebody who has been very Lilithesque is growing into a kind of, well, not kinky, but more, well, it can be, but more kind of like, hey, with that power imbalance, I can live with harmoniously. I don't want to delulu you, okay? But it can be both ways. It can be both ways. Like, how, oh, I could actually be okay with that. And Neptune time from now, you find out that it wasn't so. So I want to also take that into account. But it can very well be, hey, with that thing, hey, that thing didn't work. When I think about, I was actually contacting the person I wrote my screenplay with, Sister Spook, in 2008, and it was a joke about like the army, and I was like, hey, let's make them. It's a day after I was writing about our movie, and I was like, hey, but this time I actually want dividends because I need like a 50 million to buy a house with all the inflation and stuff, and it can be very much like them. It's not necessarily something going to happen, but it was like it can be something like that notion where the initiation now is not so crisisy. Okay, there's some sort of conjoining of forces that can actually do something together. And with Neptune Rahu, I want you to take into the consideration that what is going on right now is serving you for now and is strong enough to be there because it's serving something. Okay, there's something, there's a fated movie, illusion, dream that you're walking in together, and you're walking in together where the somebody plays the Saturn more conservative or older, or even more religious, where somebody plays the Mars and um, and Mars listens to Saturn, and Saturn's guiding Mars, and that can be something that has high potential to be the Lulu, but right now you need that the Lulu, and it's working. So it's both the Lulu and not the Lulu. Okay, I don't know in what way that can be, but sometimes things come up such in a way that you need to take action right now. And on the scale, if we go back to Lilith, for you to be a little bit the Lulu right now about what it's going to do in the world is okay. I'm trying to think about positive examples. Okay, I'll tell you something. When I was taking on astrology, no, when I was taking on politics and governance for a degree, because I felt this is the closer to like traveling. And it was maybe one course on international relations, but my second degree, I would do not in linguistics department, but actually in politics and government, because I could speak, and then I would be writing sugar-free lemonade. Okay, so think about the level of the Lulu, but that birthed sugar-free lemonade, which was basically a satire about MK Ultra, but I had no idea that was the issue. Okay, this can also be kind of like Einstein discovering quantum and thinking that, well, the God does not play dice with the universe. No, this cannot be. Okay, this can't be. So this Delulu plays an important role in your life because sugar-free lemonade has evolved into flying bombardier, and with all my weird maneuvers, I have been waking up one morning and I was thinking, Model UN. Okay, when Raul was in Libra, I was doing Model UN, and the line was, when I was honorable chair, a very peculiar way of being honorable chair. Anyway, then somebody would say I instead of the name of the country, and I had a sign that says I don't exist. You think about the Rahu, where it's all personal, and the way that the way it's been running. So the camaraderie. And I was like waking up, I was like, Model UN, I was just cracking in laughing. And I needed that the level of the Lulu in the sense that, yes, I'm doing like astrology, I'm doing this chart, I'm doing that chart. And I'm like, why not? Write about that, in that form. And so that level of the Lulu was needed. And so this is where the Neptune Rahu here can be highly the Lulu, but what tells me here that you're not imagining is the Mars Saturn, okay? Because Mars trining Saturn, Mars ruling Rahu, Saturn in Pisces, you're not imagining. And yet the Neptune tells me that you're stepping towards a dream, but that dream is very real. The hard aspect is perhaps how real the dream is. For example, if I think about me looking into people who have like psychosis and stuff like that, and starting to see patterns, kind of like what I did in linguistics, where I looked at the air patterns of people in language. And I was so excited about it always. And I love the mistakes that people make when they speak a foreign language because it exposes their internal grammar. And I felt that something similar is happening when people supposedly speak about this psychosis. And then I had no idea that the people say, yeah, the government is listening to me, and the government is making it. I was abducted by aliens and made it, and but like, no, it is in verbatim. I was not ready for that. So I was delulu, highly delulu, but not in the essence that I'm imagining, but that I was imagining that I'm imagining. So it's that level of delulu. Okay. And so I want you to take into account that all the telepathies, and if you're an empath, the feeling, the senses that you have might not be so far off as you think. Okay? Um, and with Neptune, we are talking telepathy, we are talking the astral, we are talking erotic. Neptune is very erotic. Okay? Do not underestimate the erotic intelligence of Neptune. Okay? It is just that liminal space that you need to be able to orgasm. Okay? Especially if you have a Lilith with Ketu. Okay? So the crazy ideas that you have in your mind, they might not be the Lulu, and not only that, it might be so far-fetched to you from the point that you are now, but Mars and Saturn will keep working until that dream is realized. Like, oh my gosh, I'm realizing the power of this eclipse. Like, you're not imagining, this is actually happening. You actually are leading in a way, and you're leading together. And you're moving forward to that last phase of Pisces, first phase of Aries in your chart, and they work together right now. So it can also be a time where something that didn't work together is working together because somebody lives alone, because somebody is single. I can think about the time where I left a 10-year-old friendship because of a crisis and so on. And other things began to work because now I was single. Okay, not that they were holding me back or anything like that. It was just like another phase in my life where the work that I have been doing, like astrological magic, and like I think, with all how much I could share jokes with them about, what I do, I don't think that I could do what I do still in that situation. So it can kind of feel like because somebody is single now, you can do something together where you might be highly delulu, but what you're highly delulu about is the fact that not only you are realizing a certain dream, but it is bigger than you think, and you are more realistic than you could ever imagine. So powerful, powerful things happening. There's great benevolence that's potent here in the air. There's something that takes you away from fear frequencies into faith frequencies, and you need that. Think about venturing in to a journey that is in no way easy, but everything is gathering up to assist you to go there. Everything is summoning up so that you and the little. Okay, you think about exactly the type of the glass of wine that you need to do it anyway, or the letting go and trusting the process, the surrendering that you need when you create something or you launch something creative. Um, the oh fuck it, I'll just do it that you're doing when you're taking a certain sort of action where you're dabbling in the fog, but you're meant to, because if you had any idea what you're doing, you would think that's impossible. So, and in that sense, okay, in that sense, there's a certain sort of closure. There's a certain sort of closure. That which with Ketu seemed impossible now becomes the place you lean back into, but perhaps this time with a little bit more processed, more included, okay, more understood. Um, so I gave the example of discovering quantum. I gave the example with sugar-free lemonade. Um, Other example, because it's a lot of innovation. A foundation of country can be with this one. Um, Foundation of new sovereignty. Okay, this is going to be the Spring of Nations here because it's basically a declaration of independence where you think about the new countries in the UN, it's given that. Okay. No, I cannot see for your question. It's eclipse, okay? Eclipse is the change in the way we see things. It's not eclipsed yet. As changing city, changing countries, okay, beseder, I don't know. I don't know, okay. Um, they can definitely something to do with birthing here, okay. But he's so because somebody is single, a new venture is coming together between this Saturn and the Mars person. You know what? This can actually be. You know what I remember? I remember again. I bring her up. Lada Duncheva had. She talks about the third marriage. She was married to a second husband, and she went to astrologer Nicola Stoyanovich. She said, "You're going to divorce. You're going to have a very, very happy third marriage." And she thought she was in the good marriage. Okay, just like no way you're telling me that. But you know, he was Slavic, so he would say it like it is, and that's what was. And so when she met her husband under heavy Neptune transit as well, he was divorced and she was divorced, and then they met together, or she was, I think, about to divorce. I'm not sure about that. And then they met together. And so you think about, because somebody is single, there's a new venture that's coming in that leads into partnership where there's more equality. There's definitely been more equality. She became an astrologer, a world-renowned astrologer, more so than before. She was doing astrology for years back then, especially relational astrology. Then she met her third husband, was beginning her accountant, and so on. So there's this equity between them, and there's this flow between them. They knew each other more, and that became an actual successful relations. They're happening, I think, towards the realm maturation. So or Saturn, but something like that. Anyway, and with Uranus, somebody is divorcing. So this can definitely be kind of situation where somebody is separating, which is somebody is single now, and that create a joint venture that actually works. And you might even think, okay, I'm dreaming, it's the Lulu, but it's kind of like it's not. Okay, I don't like, I don't want to, this is where I'm really cautious because I don't want people to get like all the Lulu on me. Um, so, but it's not impossible. Uh, if it is like a business venture, it can be where, that's your PayPal. I've been giving the example of the PayPal where Elon Musk, and people say, no, PayPal is not Elon Musk. It's like, okay, every entrepreneurial company is a company. It's not one person. A movie is not the director's movie alone. Okay, it's the same thing. But you think about the many times that he tries to have, okay, in innovation and enterprises, this or that, and then there was PayPal. Okay, so that's giving the somebody's PayPal. Um, and, again, it means that this time it works. Something starting here where it's given this time it works, and you go back to that comfortable spot where it's actually comfortable because you have addressed this, and what you think is like it's impossible, that eclipse is going to take you there. I guess why I'm getting so much. It's like, no way it's possible. No way it's possible. It cannot be. But this is kind of like, and even though Neptune, the Lulu is that it is the Lulu, okay? It's like this, because from our consciousness level in the beginning, it can also be, I'm given that somebody is the Saturn, so somebody already knows that, okay? I know in my life, I'm not the person, I'm not a Saturn person. Like, I don't know that. Okay, and I'm getting a lot of, can't you see, and I'm like, it looks like an illusion. Okay, um but is with you, you might be feeling that because somebody's been the Saturn person, and you feel like, no, it cannot be, like, no, it cannot be, no, this cannot be. But that eclipse will be the eclipse is kind of almost going to force you in, where you're saying like, we have to work together, we have to do this together, because it's something fated with eclipses. Okay, it's not coercion in kind of like the Plutonian way, but so we have to address this, we have to do it. And then you see that, and it's kind of like, well, that you do that and it works well beyond your dreams. So much so that when you lean back to the Lilith, you're beginning to balance those yin and yangs. Okay, you're beginning to be healthy. So that, and that can pertain for relation. Now, of course, Venus and Mercury are in 11 degrees Scorpio. So, but those are the rulers of Ketu, which are, ruling of the eclipse, which is ruling Rahu, because it's ruling Mars. So, there really is something unusual about this. Okay, yes, Venus and Mercury can also be associated with the suicide. Okay, but it can also mean that in the past it ended up as suicide. Okay, so that might not necessarily be that you, unfortunately, it can also be that in the future it will also end this way. So I don't want you to, okay, but with Saturn there's a certain longevity. Either there's longevity to the action and you're going to be known in a certain way, or that it doesn't necessarily mean suicide, but it's actually meaning something unusual. Okay, in any case, the word Uranian, unusual, electric, okay, but can also be shocking and provocative. Okay, so, and yet I cannot ignore for how this Mars does work with this Saturn. Okay, this time Mars listens to what Saturn has to say and follows Saturn advice, and Saturn listens to Mars and adapts its guidance to Mars. Okay, that somehow ends with Venus and Mercury in the 11th degree of Scorpio, which is again ruled by this. There is a certain loop here where you are refining a dream into existence. Okay, with this degree, there can be issue to do with suicide, electricity, or something like that. I have to admit that it doesn't, in essence, okay, there is the fact that Mars is actually releasing from the square, or the eclipse is applying to the square with Mars. So there's certain crisis point every time you try to, there's something looping, and there's a crisis point every time you try to balance it. Okay, so with something is very deeply important to refine. And then you go back to this, but this crisis point is also growth point. Okay, if you think about, if I think about grow with love, you might be growing with love here. Okay, there, and now you don't want to ignore, because Mars hard aspecting Moon and Sun is genuine challenge to the ego and to the psychological state. Okay, so the crisis point is real, and it's perpetuating loop of this crisis. Okay, that being said, this Mars, Venus and Mercury are trining for this Mars. Now, hopefully you're not getting to the point where you're suicidal. Okay, because that might mean that this is, okay, malefic. Another thing is that instead of a suicidal, there can be a sort of something unusual. So it's almost electric. Now, that can also be kind of like the makeup sex, because Venus Mars is trining. It means you get along better in bed than it's like that, and that not okay. It can also mean you communicate better in bed, but it's not unemotional, because Mars is in the sign of the moon, but Mars is squaring the moon, so there's some sort of challenge to your emotions, which you actually deal by making love, if that's a relationship. And the word making love here is absolutely not a cliche. This is both very emotional signs. It's not having sex, it's making love here. Another form in which that can take place is that when you discuss the yin and yang, okay, it's better to think of it as Mars and Venus than as Moon and Sun, and then the Moon and Sun. Because Mars is squaring the Moon and the Sun. But the ruler Venus is trining Mars. Okay? Still, you're going to have a Eureka. Because 11 degrees Eureka is electricity, is... and with Mercury, you might be even discussing about it. If I think about discussing the role of electric shocks in the MK Ultra programming to create multiple identities and so on. So the discussion of this electricity, or the discussion, this is where the discussion about suicide can, or the desire to have suicide, can also remediate for society. Okay, this is open dialogue. Okay, this Mars, oh, this is also where you are heading, is in, there is an emotional conflict, but also an ego conflict. Because it can be that you're attached to the past here, and to move forward is a little bit difficult, but it's not impossible because Mars is perpetuating this forward movement with Saturn, and Saturn is ruling over Pluto. Um, so this is, you know, um, the issue with Mars and Saturn is that there can be heated emotions, but you might be learning to deal with that, not to be like passive aggressive, but to discuss for the things around. If you think about the yin yang struggle, okay, Mars Moon is also yin yang struggle. If you discuss it in matters of Venus and Mars, you can alleviate for some of the challenges. If you have like Mars trine Moon in the composite and the synastry, it can very much alleviate for this tension, or Mars trine Sun and composite and synastry can very much alleviate for this tension. 11 degree, it's Uranian degree, can also mean that there can be another party, which is going to be a little bit of an open relation, where the fact that it's so allows you to have these eurekas, albeit the emotional challenges. It's given long term, okay? Whatever this thing is, there's something where it's fated to be long term, but this is the long term that is working together well. It's not all smooth, and it's important because you came here to create the impossible, okay? um, you came here to generate the impossible. And Neptune is still retrograde. So Neptune retrograde is usually time where we take our power back in relation to our dreams. Okay, we reshape our dreams, we refine our dreams, we get something. Okay? So you're going to be refining that dream, refining as something creative together. But this is something that takes a really long time. I know what it is for me. Okay. You might be also for recovering from, if it can be as simple as two people meeting together and they're recovering from war trauma. So naturally, there's something that they will have to process their entire lives, but that they might be fit together for this situation. There's longevity here. This is not going to go away, and the constant refining here is something that's gradually growing, gradually blooming into something, and it's kind of given like this one. The Lulu part is is that you think you are the Lulu. Okay, if you think about Neptune as what you thought was the fake love is the real love. Okay, because with this one, it's highly unlikely that what you thought was the real love is the fake love. You understand what I mean? Okay, the Ketu is with Lilith here, and with Rahu and Mars here, there is a difficulty to accept. Um, so there's something genuinely benevolent here. you've been here in the past and you're moving forward, but this time you're creating the impossible, and the harmony between the old and the new. I kind of think like Japan after the A bombs and the rebuilding and the conjoining of the new and the old. Although Japan totally needs rehabilitation, like things that I hear about the relation between yin and yang in Japan today, I'm dumbfounded. Okay, like on the one hand, very acceptable for women to allow their men to have like open relations and so on and so forth, but not the other way around. Okay, it's given Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay, I'll say it like it is. This imbalance of yin and yang is giving very bad things, because when yin not supported, she's gonna run dry, and then Mars explodes. So that's something that really must be tended to, because other things, you think about the harmony between the old and the new, Japan totally has that, but you need the harmony between the yin and the yang. Okay, so and here with Mars Venus trining, there is the harmony between the yin and the yang. There's a harmony between the old and the new, and the yin and the yang. It's challenging the way we look at relationships, the way our parents, sun and moon, would look at relationships. But because we are agreeing to challenge it, we're creating the impossible. And this is allowed because we allow ourselves to agree to be single. The possibility of living alone, the possibility of being single, the possibility of saying I am allows to say we are. And with that, I'll end. Thank you.